All right, welcome to this episode of Rush Roundtable. This is episode 186, and we are going to discuss a very rare love song from Rush called Ghost of a Chance. I've got this excellent panel. Well, I am with this excellent panel. I don't have them, I am with them. I have the pleasure of talking with them about this excellent song, and we're just kind of let's kind of go around and I'll introduce everybody. We got Michael, Alex, Omar, and Michelle, and then me, Jim. So we're just going to kind of jump right into it, right into Ghost of a Chance. All right, so the instrumentation, or the kind of opening instrumental part, I think that really kind of sets the stage of the song. It's really very similar to the verses, and most of it towards, like, what they're playing during the guitar solo, and the outro, and things like that. But it really kind of sets the stage and gives you an idea of what's to come, which to me is kind of a little bit more straightforward. I hesitate to say poppy, but I don't know what other word to use.
I say swanky when I hear the intro.
Yeah,
There's a little swanky in there, like, hey, we're getting into something.
yeah.
I, I actually thought the first time I heard it, I saw the name of the song "Ghost of a Chance." What's this? But then when it started going into the riff, it kind of sounds a little spooky, just a little bit to me. It's like that kind of fits the name of the song. But then it went
Go.
off to a totally different subject, but directly relating to the title of the song. So
Yeah.
nicely wrapped how they
Well,
they managed
that's
to do that.
the spookiness is the flat nine. Because the riff, I mean, the riff is really very E minor. So, but instead of, like, say, Limelight, where he's, well, E major, where he's going to a low string, he's in the middle of the strings, the low end of the guitar neck, using some open strings. And it's kind of, I mean, I could break it down, but we're not here for that, obviously. But it's kind of like, distinctive rock guitar E minor riff. And he does throw in the spooky, as sort of, he makes it a little Phrygian for a second, and then just resolves it over onto that B, the five chord. So it's 122 for any of the drummers in the audience or on the panel. So
Yeah.
little 4/4, just straight ahead rock,
Oh
as they
yeah.
wanted to do on these albums.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is. Fits well. All right, cool. Well, let's get into the first verse. All right. So the first verse, I'm gonna go ahead and read it. Like a million doorways, all the choices we made, sorry, all the stages we passed through, all the roles we played, so many different directions our separate paths might have turned. With every door that we opened, every bridge that we burned. That's a pretty, there's a lot that Daniel put into that first verse, I think.
Yeah, I would say that again. Neil is so very good at saying a lot with a few words, and
Yeah.
all of these things that these are we're making choices, we're doing our thing every day. We make choices. We, like you said, the roles we play, but whether we're students, whether we're teachers, whether we're husbands, whatever, we're making all these decisions, and every little decision takes our life in a tangent. It just goes that way. It could have gone a million different ways, like a million little doorways. And the thing
Yeah.
is, it's not just us; it's every human being that's happening at the exact same time. So I mean, you go crazy thinking of all the possibilities of how the world could be, just based on these little decisions that we're making, like
Yeah.
almost every minute. So it's really a deep concept, beautifully illustrated with those few words.
And that illustration of a million little doorways, and then he's referencing stages. We've passed through doorways, but the stages, obviously, he spent his life on stages. And then the roles, you go back to a little more of a Shakespeare, and you're playing a role on a stage, as opposed to, but as a drummer, you're still playing a role on the stage. You're the drummer. And then moving into that second stanza, just ending the beginning with every door that we open, every bridge we burn. Because I mean, burning a bridge is a pretty, we look at that as a pretty distinctive, fairly negative thing, but
Right.
it still pushes us forward. It's still part of our life. It's still, the positive doesn't exist without the negative, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Yeah. And even, where it says every door that we opened, right, that could be potentially a positive thing you go through, whereas the bridges could potentially be a negative thing, but not necessarily, right? But
Opening your heart.
yeah, but they can be absolutes or they cannot be. More than likely, burning a bridge would be an absolute, depending on the bridge.
Well, all these things are going on, right? And it could be it's pretty chaotic in our lives. And then if we're burning a bridge, that's kind of like a big event in life that kind of like, makes you reset. Whether it's you purposely burned the bridge because you had to, or it was inadvertent and was a mistake, whatever the case may be, it's like a
Right.
huge event. It's a pause, kind of like you got to reevaluate what steps you're going to take, which door you're going to take from this point forward. So it's not just the little doorways, it's also the bridges, the big events in our lives that make us
Right.
reflect on what's going on.
I think this
Yeah.
is where we start to see that the song is about love. And it reminds me of some of these songs that we hear, like God Bless the Broken Road. Oh, I've gone through so much and it was so worth it just to get to you. And this is where we start to see that image come into the song, in my opinion. And nobody did it better than Neil, because he didn't directly come out and say, hey, we went through a lot and then we got here and wow. What he did is create this imagery, kind of like Alex's background right now with a million little doorways, burning bridges and
He
everything
did.
along the way. Those are the bumps in the road.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, well, let's continue on this now. So in the pre-chorus, somehow we find each other through all that masquerade. Somehow we found each other. Somehow we have stayed in a state of grace. What do you guys think?
Well, the mathematical version says. Honestly, well, and how he thinks in mathematical terms, Neil, your chance in finding your soulmate is like 1 in 10,000. That that doesn't even take into account that there's like 10,000 of those people, or 9,989 of those people live in a place that's not even near you, or a place that you would visit in your lifetime.
Right. Yeah.
But look at the ghost of a chance that you could actually find someone to love is really, really super slim. It really is a ghost of a chance.
And isn't it true that, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
But it's not even finding someone to love, it's finding the right person to love. Anyone can love anyone else. It's the fact of, are you finding someone to love, or is it finding the right person to love that is, loving each other and staying together, which I think is the more broader scope in the scope of Roll the Bones, the album, which is taking the chance of not necessarily something small, but something in terms of finding the chance of opening your heart and finding someone to love long term. That in itself is a risk. That itself is a throwing of the dice. That itself is taking a shot. Going back to the larger concept of the album.
Yeah. Concept of chance. Yep.
Yeah. And I was going to say, where it's interesting, where in this pre-chorus, the lyrics here, that through all that masquerade, like we're not always showing who we really are. We put up a front because we're in the world, we're doing our thing, and there's only a very few select people that we really let them know who we really are, right? So few. And then through all that masquerade, these two people, they found each other. They let each other get through that front, and then in a state of grace. That phrase to me just means, I can't believe I found you. It's like we're in a state of grace. It's like I can't believe through all of that. What would my life be without you, right? So, It's just what are the odds, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It sort of reminds me of the Chris Rock thing when you're not dating someone, you're dating their representative, and it takes some time to kind of get past that. And, once the lust and once the shine goes, who that person is behind all of that. That's the state of grace. It's the living in the everyday. It's the not only do I love you, but I like you. I want to experience the ups and downs with you. To me, that's the state of grace. It's 5 years, 10 years. I'm thinking of his relationship with Jackie at this point, and not as obviously not Selena, but with Jackie, where it was a state of grace. It was the everyday. It was the getting up and doing the mundane tasks and doing it with your best friend. To me, that's more the state of grace than anything else.
Yeah. Oh, that's very well said. Yeah. All right. Ready for the chorus? Okay, chorus. I don't believe in destiny or the guiding hand of fate. I don't believe in forever or love as a mystical state. I don't believe in the stars or the planets or angels watching from above. But I believe there's a ghost of a chance to find someone to love and make it last.
I
I
always, sorry,
go
man.
ahead. No,
No,
go ahead, Alex. Go. No, you go.
I was just thinking, I always remember these lyrics because at the time the album was out, I was playing in a band with a couple of guys, and the bass player was sort of posing this chorus to me of, "You think Eddie believes this?" And I thought, well, I'd be singing it. I assume he wants to believe what he's singing because the bass player is a good Catholic boy. So with him singing, I don't believe in angels, and and later on in the chorus, like, well. It's like it's sort of that's the way it goes,
Yeah.
But yeah, I for a second I wanted to turn this also or reference the instrumentation too. That we had our intro riff that fed into the verse, which Lifeson, for instance, stayed with the that E minor vibe and kind of did sort of one of those kind of a nice palm muted arpeggio, and then that pre-chorus brought us back to the riff. And then the chorus, they just open it right up. Obviously, halftime for any of the rhythmicists in the room. So they go to halftime. Lifeson breaks out some major seventh chords, which wasn't really as common for we're not talking those on 2112 or Hemispheres. He's looking for something that opens it up harmonically too, and makes it a little bit broad. They go for a really distinctive key change here also. So I mean they're coming in with that rock song right away. Neil's presenting his case, brings in the pre-chorus, and that pre-chorus transitions us back into a different space now.
Dreamy bliss, like a dreamy, blissful,
it does
angelic sound.
Yeah, it does, and it's a really good, musically, it's really good sort of, I don't know, breakup. That this song the music could be mundane if there was nothing changed. I don't think any Rush song is mundane. So you guys listening, please don't take that away from this, right? But there's something that's different that they threw in here, but something that makes sense, right? It kind of goes with the lyrics, right? The music and the lyrics sort of go together that way. And you're right, it makes it more blissful because it's like, oh my gosh, I found somebody. We can find somebody to love. That's something that's blissful, right? So they really go together, and I think that's a really great change. I love the halftime that Neil does there too.
Yeah,
it lets the words breathe.
Yes,
it gives space for the breath of the brevity and seriousness of what Neil wrote and what Geddy's singing, which is at the time not necessarily their norm.
Yes,
I was going to say too, in reference to the band member who asked, does Geddy Lee believe that? But what that person probably didn't know, and we all know, is that Neil would present lyrics to Geddy. Geddy would look at it. Geddy would, he's Neil's editor, so he's, I don't know if I'm comfortable singing that, or I think you could change this. And Neil would always be accommodating, never be offended. Okay, right, I'll change it. Yeah. And by the time it got to the final words, final lyrics, it was something that Geddy would be comfortable singing or even believing. maybe not believing as much, but he could see that point of view and sing it comfortably.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I remember an interview where they were talking about that. Getty,
yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
like well, just what you said, where Getty's like, yeah, I gotta believe it,
Yeah.
or so Neil and I work with it.
Yeah.
And also too, at the end of this chorus where he sings and make it last, and obviously repeats it, as as Donna has referenced, the repetition of the lyrics, repeating it right then and there. This is also where Lifeson brings in that one theme, that higher theme that's built out of that D major seventh chord that he plays, which finds its way later in the song, leading into the solo and whatnot. So that's kind of like an added little bonus that, all right, we're getting into the song a bit. Oh, hey, here's a little guitar theme. It's not a riff, it's not a solo yet. And then he does bring in his fills later, but
Right.
nice
Yeah.
little extra layer there.
Yeah.
I
It
have it.
is.
I have it written down as the common thread that's binding these two together. So
Yeah.
by putting that in, it's pretty symbolic,
Yeah. And I love how they make it back to the verse riff and rhythm and everything. You know how they transition back there from the halftime. It's simple. It's not complex, right? What they do, but it's extremely effective. And
it's
it doesn't have to
it's
be
seamless.
Yeah, it doesn't have
Yep.
to be complex to make it good.
Yep.
Right?
And I noticed like there's a lot of YouTube reactors to Rush songs, and one of the main things that I hear over and over and over is how good Rush does their transitions from one part of a song to another.
Yeah.
We take it for granted, but it's so true. Like even this, it's as simple as going from that halftime back to the regular tempo of the song. You almost don't notice it because
Yeah.
it's Neil coming back in and establishing that beat again. It's like, oh, okay, we're back.
Yep.
So
Yeah, for sure. All right, cool. Okay, second verse. And almost the end of the lyrics, oddly. All right. Like a million little crossroads through the back streets of youth, each time we turn a new corner, a tiny moment of truth. So many different connections our separate paths might have made, with every door that we opened, every game we played. I think it's kind of like, I think that verse to me kind of builds on the first verse, it certainly builds on it's the same theme, right? But it's kind of like, on the first verse, all of the doorways in the past that we've chosen. And here it's like, okay, a little crossroads, you meet people and everything gets tied together, right? Everything gets tied together. Maybe if you didn't go to this party and meet this person, you wouldn't be introduced to this other person whose sister was a friend of this person that you're going to marry. I like whatever, right? Whatever crazy
the butterfly
insane
effect.
Thing. Yeah, right.
Essentially a butterfly effect. Yeah.
Right. So it is. It's pretty amazing that, through the course of our lives, that's what I'm taking out of what Neil has written, that, there's that chance to find someone, right? And maybe it's not your soulmate that you would marry, but it could be someone who's even a good friend, or somebody you have a lifelong lasting friendship with. Could be that too. I consider this a love song, but could be that too, I guess.
Well, it is. I mean, Neil said it is, but it's in his way. Kind of like, I mean, it was in the documentary, the original documentary, where he said he wasn't inclined to want to do any confessional songs. Where did she go? Where did I go wrong? Much like Pete Sinfeld said of his original lyrics for the early King Crimson was, anything that sounded like it came out of Tin Pan Alley. No. And in some cases, you think of was it Tony Banks was saying early Genesis lyrics were what they were because they didn't have girlfriends. They weren't going out on dates. They were sitting there in English class reading literature. So what do we write about? Well, I got a book for homework, so let's write about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's interesting because I was in college when this album came out, and just with the idea of through the back streets of youth and the idea of the crossroads, like Jim, you just said that. When you are, of drinking age or just about or a little over, yeah, you're out and about, you're on the scene to whatever your scene is, and that, more apt than, 30 decades, definitely not 30 decades, 3 decades later. Yeah. It's hanging out with some Get some mummies happening there. I got nothing. Anyway, I'll just kick it over to someone else. I think I don't have the ability to speak on this verse anymore.
I think that, back to mathematics and randomness and what Neil believes, obviously what we can't ignore in this panel is the fact that there is a touch of religiosity to this somewhere, something about spirituality, and that Neil obviously has touched upon this before in other songs, like Totem came to mind, and that's a tongue-in-cheek kind of funny and poking fun at you for your holy cows. But there is a little bit of spirituality in this one. And I can understand why somebody might question, hey, does Getty really believe what he's singing based on his faith and knowing how faithful he is? So I don't think that Neil is trying to be religious or overtly religious with this, but he does say something about randomness and contingency and what are the chances, and again, statistically, and how do we come together, or is that fate? Is that part of what our religion teaches us? Right. Has it already been written?
Yeah. And it's interesting you bring up that you see the spirituality, some religion, but spirituality there too. And Donna Halper has mentioned on different panels that I've been on. I remember specifically, I think when we were talking about Faithless, that while Neil was not very religious, he had a lot of faith and a lot of spirituality, but not organized religion type of faith, but he had a lot of faith and spirituality. So I can see that. I see why you said that. Yep.
I think he admitted that he's agnostic, or he was agnostic.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
I mean, something else. So
go ahead, Michael, and then I'll go.
This, the song is basically two verses, a chorus, and that's basically it, which for a Rush song is very little. So I remember Donna saying, if he really wanted to make the point, he's going to repeat it multiple times. Mm-hmm. And the chorus is repeated times.
Yeah.
Which means he's trying to tell you something. You should probably listen.
Yeah.
And, the fact that it's being said 3 times, it is what are the odds? It's possible, it's difficult, it's hard, but it's random. But again, going back to the bigger concept of Roll the Bones, it's taking the chance, and you never know what can happen if you take the chance of opening that door, seeing what's here. Every day we make decisions. Should I made that right? Should I made that left? Everything you do impacts everything else, whether you know it or not.
Yep. Very much so.
First of all, sorry about the dog. Something's making her go crazy up there. So
that's okay.
But what I was gonna say is when we were talking about the first verse, it was more like the chance encounter with the person of our dreams, let's say. The vibe I get from the second verse is more like they already have a relationship, and now they're dealing with other things that coming up in their lives. Are they going to stay together? So like, there's a million little crossroads through the back streets of youth. Maybe they live where they met, that could be, and they turn a new corner, a tiny moment of truth. So when things are coming up in life is, the tests in life now, are they going to stay together? Right. And then, that second part is every game, every door that we opened, every game we played, all of these things now that they're maybe doing together or dealing with other people after they have their relationship, are they going to stay together? So it's kind of like a progression of the doors are still there. There's choices you're making all the time. Now you're taking into consideration someone special in your life now. Where is it going to go?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a Fleetwood Mac song to reference game playing.
Yep.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Well, all right. It's a love song for sure, and I think that his solid message here is make it last and make it last.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I recently answered one of those stupid random Facebook things that you shouldn't answer, maybe because it's got a lot of privacy issues. But what's the one single line in a song that you think is, and I just answered this today, and I wrote, and make it last. There's no secret to any of the Rush fans who've seen me on any other panel that this is my favorite song. out of any artist, not just Rush, in the whole wide world. This is song number one. And I think one of the things that, aside from the whole feeling of it, or the whole spirit of the song, is that, and make it last. You know, this is something that we all strive for. To have that soulmate meet you somewhere at this strange crossroad in your life, and you're making it last.
Yeah, that is true. Very true.
It's that state of grace.
Yep.
Exactly. And there's other Rush songs that are love songs that we know. Obviously, Madrigal. Yeah. Again, another song that's itty bitty and tiny and short and small and to the point. Madrigal's a little romantic, almost like an ode to someone. But maybe songs like Panacea from Caress of Steel are also very mystical like this, and very very dreamy in a way. You know, when they say Panacea, liquid grace, or let me touch your fragile face, enchantment falls around me, it's very magical.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have songs like that, or even The Speed of Love, another love song that Neil writes about. And in there, he writes about all these spiritual things like forces of nature bringing people together. So, very interesting to see how Neil's concept of love in this song is about making it last.
Yeah, true. All right. And after that, we repeat the pre-chorus again. We already talked about that. Then we go to a chorus again. We're talking about that. And then we hit the guitar solo. So, guitar solo. So I always make the comment that Alex solos always fit the song perfectly. And to me, this one is no different. Like the vibe of the solo fits the song just perfect. And I think it really rocks. I was listening to it today. When it got to the solo, I find myself just kind of really jamming out for it. But Alex, you can talk a lot more eloquently about Alex's solo than I can.
Well, I love that they overlapped it from the chorus. Because once again, while he's singing "Make It Last," he brings it back with that, as I say, the higher theme that Leifson was playing coming out of the chord, the D major 7 chord. So they repeat that, and "Make It Last," we got the theme. "Make It Last," we got the theme, and then he climbs up the neck, and of course Geddy. Even with me having sort of the actual music here, Geddy singing "Make It Last" while Leifson climbs up a little bit from his kind of mid position on the neck up into more of an F sharp minor pentatonic with some extra notes here and there, moves around. But yeah, it's a 16 measure solo. Clearly they were looking to give him some time, give him some space. A lot of vibrato with the bar, which back with whatever song, I can't think of what it is right now, but we were talking about, I think it was Bravado, he used his Telecaster. Strong likelihood he was using the PRS on this one. I don't actually know for certain, I will admit that. But because like right at this point in time, I don't know. I might have known, but talk to me 30 years ago. But in that respect, yeah, I mean, like you're saying, and as far as my eloquence, I feel like I'm lacking in eloquence tonight, because I'm just kind of looking at a decent transcription of it and saying it has some of the phrasing, the left hand technique. He plays with the rhythm a little bit, brings in some triplet quarter notes and whatnot, some pick harmonics, as I say, a lot of vibrato with the bar. So he just creates in Leifson being the spontaneous guy in the band. He obviously played over those parts and came up with something that, as always, not as per usual, as always, like you said, fits the song perfectly.
Yeah. He's just kind of a musical genius, in my opinion.
By the way,
very underrated.
Gibson.
Extremely underrated.
He's the Gibson.
Yeah, at least live, he used the Gibson.
Well, live
he did.
Yeah, when we get to Snakes and Arrows time frame, he was definitely using the Les Pauls. He had just started using Paul Reed Smiths in 1990 on the Presto tour. So the PRSs were new guitars for him at the time. He did have one actually with a Telecaster neck pickup and bridge pickup slant that was among the items sold in the auction last year. So he had, and actually both of his original PRSs are the Sunburst with those the single coil pickups, and the black PRS with the humbuckers. Both of those were active on the Roll the Bones tour. The Sunburst certainly was on Presto. When I saw them, he was using the Canadian guitars, not the Maryland-made guitars. But yeah, I mean, by the time we got into this century, he was definitely in the Les Paul camp.
Yeah. All right. Well, after the solo, we'd hit the final chorus, and then it fades out as Geddy's repeating his vocal there. So as we're kind of getting close to our time anyway, does anybody have any final thoughts they want to share on this?
Tim, I want to pick your brain about the drum fills at the end, because there's two really significant fills that are constantly coursing through my mind, as it's my favorite song. And
okay, spot. I'm on the spot.
Similar chords in like a bumper on a news radio station that sounds like it, and then you automatically go into the. Do you have any thoughts about those drum fills at the end, or?
Well, let me see. I'm trying to think specifically of the ones you are referring to, and I'm trying not to think of the ones earlier in the song.
Probably right before the fading starts.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Neil, I think
I play drums too.
Yes. Yeah, me and Omar both, right? And Omar, you could say what you think on this too, but I think as Rush's career progressed, it seemed to me like Neil was more consciously playing melodic fills than he was trying to show chops. I mean, like if you think back to like Hemispheres and A Farewell to Kings, like Xanadu, which is my favorite all-time Rush song. I mean, there was a lot of melody in what he played on the drums, but there was a lot of virtuosic chops as well. And I love that. I absolutely love it, but I love the melodic stuff that he did here too. So, I mean, I think his fills, really fit the song well.
Yeah, I think it was definitely very melodic. I think as a compositional drummer, he always paid attention to that.
He did, even when he was throwing his chops
melodic. Yeah.
Did.
So,
yeah.
In the later years, he always mentioned that he wanted to be, because he was very rigid before. He said, I kind of want to be more spontaneous. But then when that's, he never, as he used to say, he didn't leave spontaneity to chance.
Yep. Yes.
He would still, even though there was, let's say, chaos in some of the things he came up with, they ended up being melodic anyway. That's right. True. Because they're always trying to fit what they do to the song. They all did it. Alex, Geddy, and Neil, everything they were doing, does it fit the song? So those fills at the end, they were not overdone because the song was like fading a little bit. So the fills matched the mood of the song at the moment. So it's masterful. He's the master of the fills. I mean,
I mean, like even if you think about something like La Via Strangiato, which has got some insane drum fills in there, it fit the mood of the song as well.
Absolutely,
it's perfect. And on this album, I'm pointing to my this thing. On this album, his Ludwig drums just sound beautiful, just gorgeous. Still my favorite hit.
Yeah, mine too.
Are the Ludwigs, man. Still, yeah.
I'll just simply say that he thought that this is, and I'll quote him here, as one of the all-time good ones. And it's hard to disagree with him.
Yeah, I know.
This is a classic.
It is.
I got something to say about the live version. They didn't publish any live versions except from the Snakes and Arrows tour.
Right.
They had the Atlanta DVD, had like 4 songs that were I guess not in the main DVD, whatever.
It's not in the main,
I'm so glad they put Ghost of a Chance on there, because it's something special that Alex did in Snakes and Arrows tour that he did not do in Roll the Bones, which they played it then as well. At the end of the song, when they play the last chord, Alex just didn't do the normal strum. He strummed from the bottom up, like that. And it gave it such an airy, like it sent chills up everybody's. I was at that show, and when he did that, I was like, whoa! I mean, it was so perfect, like unexpected. Like he hadn't done that before, so it was really exciting. And that version live, that's a killer version of that song. I like it better actually than the studio version. And Neil Peart was on. I mean, he was actually doing some extra fills in there. That he was actually more active and just
Yeah,
it was beautiful. That live version is beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, I do have another recorded live version of that. And it was on this bootleg CD I bought in 1990, whatever, that was titled Mirrors. It's a double disc from the Roll the Bones tour. So obviously, for anyone who's this far into the video, if you're looking for bootlegs, that was, I think, the first song on disc 2. And as they say, from the Roll the Bones tour.
So that show, apparently, that was supposed to be given to Les Claypool. That's from Oakland, and that was supposed to be given to Les.
Yes.
And it was borrowed, apparently. And that's as soundboard can be.
Ooh,
it's
great sounding, yeah. Great sounding.
Wonderful.
Nice, yeah. Wow. Awesome. All right. Well, guys and gal, everybody, thank you so much. This has been a really fun discussion. I could talk about this song forever. I know, Michelle, you mentioned that this is your favorite song ever. This is definitely my favorite song on this album, and it ranks extremely high for me on all of Rush's catalog. I think the song is just masterful. I think it is amazing. All of it's just great. So you guys listening and watching, hopefully you made it this far. Don't forget to click the like and subscribe button. You can see when our content is coming out and get notifications for it. And I guess we will see you at the next roundtable. Take it easy, y'all.